Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have 35 of my best coastal 4th of July DIYs that I've done here on my channel. So think flags, red, white, and blue, but I'm going to combine everything with coastal. So I really hope you enjoyed today's crafting marathon.
Let's get started with our first 4th of July DIY. I'm going to use one of those mermaid frames from the Shore Living, but I'm only using it for reference, so you don't actually need it for this DIY. But I'm going to take two of their longer signs. I think they're for 4th of July. They have the star cut out, and they're like a white weathered, but you could do this with any of the long signs from Dollar Tree. The star cutout, though, is beneficial because I'm going to go ahead and use that as part of the sign. But what I want to do is just join the two signs together. Now, they're really thin, so I am going to have to brace it. And the best way that I have found to brace these signs together is just simply to use popsicle sticks. So that's what we're going to do. These are just popsicle sticks from the Dollar Tree, and I don't want to cover up the stars at all, so I'm going to kind of work around that, but more is better than less because, you know, sometimes these signs can bow a little bit, but this seems to straighten them out a little bit. So I am just going to hot glue these popsicle sticks to the back, and what I want to make is I'm going to have like a vertical sign for 4th of July, but I wanted it to be bigger. That's why I needed two of these together. And this is a great way to get a really large sign to decorate for your holidays. So that looks pretty good. We can flip this over. I did want my stars to be on opposite ends. And then I thought I could do a really fun mermaid tail on the sign. I just kind of have to figure out how we can fit that around the stars. And again, I am just using the mermaid wreath form for reference. You don't have to have it for this DIY. Now, I want to do a patriotic mermaid tail. So I needed flag material. I'm going to use one of these little chair covers from the Dollar Tree. It's kind of like a little pillowcase. I wasn't sure if I was going to use 2 layers, so I just turned it inside out so I could get the underside of the fabric. And I ended up only using 1 layer. It is a very thin material, but it turned out pretty cool. Now I thought the tail, very tail part, like the fin, would be really cute with the star pattern from the flag. So I just use a Sharpie and just draw along the outside of my tail. And then I'm just going to go in and cut that out. Somebody has ran off with my good fabric scissors, and it really made me struggle today, is all I got to say. They got to be around here somewhere. And I did cut out both layers, and I did kind of see if that was going to help it be less transparent, but that lining was so thin that you could still see straight through the fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead and do 1 layer. It's going to make everything a little bit easier. So just cutting out the curvy parts here of the tail. And we have a little flag star pattern for the tail. Now for the rest of the mermaid tail, I want to use the stripes. I thought horizontal would be cute. So I'm just going to use this for reference and draw this shape out. This is why you don't really need this. I couldn't think of a way to do a mermaid tail on the sign. I didn't really want it to be 3D, so I didn't really want to use the wreath form. I just want the fabric. So I just go in and cut that out as well. Again, I had a little difficulty cutting this, but it's probably just because I didn't have my fabric scissors. But I'm just cutting out that tail part, and then I want to put the two together, and I want to do a really fun sign. My thought for this was a mermaid in the USA sign. Instead of made in the USA, I thought that'd be really cute, and it's going to go with my coastal 4th of July decor. So it's just a matter of getting this to fit. Again, I didn't want to cover up any of the stars. So I just kind of play around with it. I kind of want the tail to be upside down, like it is peeking out of the ocean. Not necessarily going to paint the ocean or anything on there, but I think we can make this work. So to attach it, I just use Mod Podge. It's very thin fabric, so I just did a thin coat of Mod Podge and then lay that on there. It kind of soaks right through. So the best way I found was just to take kind of a wet wipe and just smooth that out so you have a nice thin layer. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the stripe part of our tail. And this is what I mean about it being thin. See how you can see the wood grain straight through the stripes? And actually it's so thin that in the end, it kind of looks like there's nothing there. Like there's just red stripes, which is kind of cool too. And I'm going to frame this out a little bit so you'll still be able to see the shape of the mermaid tail. But even with that white liner from the back underneath of it, you can still see the wood through it. So it is what it is. I kind of like it. Now these are new, I think, this year. These little metal star ornaments from the Dollar Tree. You get 2 in an arrangement and they like have little wood beads on them. And I thought these would be perfect to put behind the star cutouts. So I'm going to take 1 navy and 1 red one. We'll do navy here at the bottom to kind of alternate from the navy on the top of the mermaid tail sign. And I thought it would be really cool to put it right behind it like that. So I just took some Dollar Tree burlap and I kind of just made some patches to put on the back to hold them in because it's a little bit smaller than the star cutout. And just glue that to the back, kind of sandwiching that in. That way, around the edges of the star, where you can kind of see through, you'll see burlap through, so it'll still kind of go with my coastal vibe. See how it can slightly move around in there? And then I'm going to do the same thing for the top. This one I am doing red, but I love these little metal stars. Wasn't very impressed with the selection of 4th of July stuff, honestly, at any of my Dollar Trees, but I did like these. There were a few items that I thought were okay, but I don't know. I just don't think they do a very good job with the 4th of July decor, but that is just my opinion. And there is the red and the navy star. So cute. Now, of course, I left a little area here at the bottom, and I need a place to say Mermaid in the USA, right? So I thought one of these little square wood planks from the Dollar Tree would be perfect. You could always, make a paint directly onto the sign if you want to, but I thought I could kind of make it its own sign. And I wanted to have a very light stain. So I put a little bit of Antique Wax by Waverly on that raw wood from the Dollar Tree and then use a baby wipe to just spread it all around to give me a lightly stained sign. Now for this part, you could totally use your Cricut. I am just going to go for it with a white paint pen and to see what I can do. I want to say Mermaid in the USA, and I just kind of did Mermaid like in the skinny or Ray Dunn font and just kind of did each line kind of differently. I thought USA would be good with those big block letters like that. Whenever I do a white paint pen on a stained wood like this, it kind of soaks in a little bit, as you can see. So I do have to go over it with another coat, but I don't know. I still sometimes think it's easier than using my Cricut. And for USA, I'm going to make these colored, but I'm going to go ahead and color them in with the white paint pen to kind of give me a nice bright background. And I love that saying. I think it's so cute. So I give that a quick dry, and then I thought we could kind of outline these. I'm just using a red Sharpie. Sometimes I like to use Sharpies instead of paint pens because I find that it's kind of easier to control. It doesn't bleed as much. So I do blue for the S and then red for the A. I wasn't real happy with my blue color. I was trying to make it a little bit darker, but I didn't have anything real dark. Now, I'm going to give it that coastal farmhouse vibe just by distressing lightly with a little bit of ivory and a chunky brush. And I think I'll put the sun right over here in this opening. I think that looks really cute. I really wanted like the S to be like more navy like everything else on the sign. I didn't really have a good navy, but I did find one that was a little bit darker. And I'm also going to go over my other letters with another coat of red Sharpie just to kind of make them pop a little bit. I didn't necessarily want to color them all the way in, but I did want them to have a little bit of color down there. And I'm just going to hot glue that little sign onto the front here, right about here. Now, I like the mermaid tail. I think it looks really cool. I did want to frame it out a little bit though. So I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree rope and I am just going to hot glue that all the way around. Now, I told you those like white stripes like almost disappear. You can't hardly even see them. And it even fooled me when I started like gluing down the rope because there was a white stripe there and I totally didn't even see it, which makes framing it, I guess, a little bit more important. You get that shape. But it's kind of cool. I like the fabric being really thin like that because it almost became like part of the sign underneath it. And I just hot glue that all the way around the shape of the tail, just working one section at a time, making sure that it does not dry out by the time I get there. And I think my camera died right about now, but basically I just kept going all the way around with the rope. And then I drilled 2 holes in the top, the center of each sign, so I could make a little hanger. And I put some twine in from the back and knotted it on the front before I realized that my camera was dead. That'll let you know that I was a good 30 minutes into this project because that is how long my camera will last without turning itself off. I hate that. Now, I did want a little bit more definition, so I did go back with my letters and kind of do like a little stitch line with a black Sharpie all around all of my letters just because I wasn't super happy with it. And I like that. That looks pretty cool. And we have a really fun, unique Mermaid in the USA sign. I think this is going to be really fun to decorate with. I loved using the little metal stars in the little cutouts. I think that was a nice surprise. But how cute is the little stars and stripe mermaid tail?
And it's really easy. I don't think you need the mermaid tail wreath form at all. You can just use some rope for your shape like that, kind of sketch it out to your fabric, and you can make a little mermaid tail. Okay, coming up next, you can use any of the wood bead garland from Dollar Tree. They had lots of them with the Shore Living line. This one I chose for this one is the ship wheel one.
They are kind of square, so they're kind of weird. But we're going to try to make this the right size that I need for mine. I also had like some broken ones, so I'm kind of like piecing together 2 of them. They're not very long, and they do have these again this year at the Shore Living line. They're probably still available because, I don't know, they're just not very popular. I don't think people really want to go to all the trouble of painting them and stuff like that. But, you know, we're going to leave the wood beads like natural, and we're just going to paint the ship wheel. That's going to be the easiest way. So once I've got all of my damaged ones out of there and got it the right length, I think we can paint it. And so I just go over the little ship wheel with a small brush and some of that darker blue that we were using. And then I'm going to do white for one. So we're going to do like red, white, and blue for these little ship wheels. And this is just going to be a fun little touch for the top of my cabinet. I always like to display this with seasonal decor.
And it really couldn't be any easier, just adding some patriotic colors. Sometimes I like to do like the navy or the darker blues for 4th of July. Sometimes I like to do the beachier blues, but I like to hang them on top of my display cabinet here in my dining room. So quick and easy way to DIY those. It's much easier to paint the little charms on them than the wood beads themselves, but you could always do that too if you wanted it to be more colorful. Hey guys, if you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button. It always helps my videos do better here on YouTube. Okay, coming up next, I'm going to do a patriotic sailboat DIY with some driftwood. This is a sign I'm using. This is the one from the Shore Living line a couple of years ago, but you could do it with the current one. because we're pretty much covering a lot of the stuff up anyway. And I'm also using this fun blue with white star fabric that I found at Dollar Tree. You can also use scrapbook paper or maybe print out that pattern for your sail.
They also had it in white, I was showing you. I am going to use the little blue part they have on there just because why not? It's going to go with 4th of July, right? And then I found this great fabric at the Dollar Tree. It is the blue with white stars, like a traditional like flag pattern. And I thought we could use that to maybe cover like one of the sails to make it look like a little patriotic sailboat to go with my decor. So I'm just going to try to cut down a little piece that's going to be big enough for one sail. And then I'm going to flip it over, kind of lay my sailboat on there where I can kind of draw like the pattern for the fabric out on the back with just an ink pen. You kind of can't get to all of it, but you can get a pretty good idea of where you're going to need to cut that. So I'm just going to use a ruler to kind of fill in the blanks. And then we can just cut out a little star. You could also use, you know, if you had like a blue and white star scrapbook paper, or sometimes they have like those little paper party banners at the Dollar Tree that kind of have this pattern as well. But anytime I can use fabric on a DIY, I love it because it does provide a fun little texture. So we're going to cover up kind of that busy sail with just like a more simple star pattern. So I just do a thick layer of Mod Podge all over my sail, and then we can glue down the fabric, sealing that on. And it's okay if some of the fabric or the Mod Podge kind of seeps through. It should dry clear. I usually like to kind of go over it with a baby wipe, kind of encourage it to kind of come through the fabric a little bit. And then I'm going to just Mod Podge over the top of it as well, just to make sure that it stays secure and it has kind of an even sheen with the matte Mod Podge. Kind of wanted to go with like a coastal feel. Now for the base of the sailboat, I kind of need something that's gonna make it like stand up. So I'm just gonna use like one of those little wood block signs from the Dollar Tree. This is kind of a shorter version. You can use whatever you've got, any kind of craft wood or anything like that. And then we're going to go with driftwood for the boat. So you guys know I love the driftwood from Target. I get it like back in their like home decor section. It's called a vase filler. It comes in a box like this. And they're $10 a box, but they do go on sale. So I always try to stock up when they go on sale. And some of you guys have been using wood chips for this. And I haven't tried that yet, so that's a great option as well. You'll have to check our Facebook group to see an adorable seahorse made out of wood chips instead of the driftwood. And so we're just going to glue driftwood all over the bottom of this. It's okay if it makes it a little bit longer. I'm just trying to cover up the entire bottom part of this boat where it says beach with driftwood. And whenever you're working with these driftwood pieces, they're all different shapes and sizes. So it's a little bit like putting it together, a puzzle. And it's okay to overlap and use some pieces together just to make it work. And I do want it to look, you know, kind of like a 3D, like full boat base with the sails being thinner, right? So I do build out a little bit with the driftwood too, just to kind of make it more three-dimensional. So just overlapping my driftwood in kind of a pattern that I'm happy with and just hot gluing that on. Now this driftwood from the Dollar Tree is kind of a light driftwood. You can always stain it if you like that better. And then for letters, I found these little red felt letters at the Dollar Tree. I thought these would be perfect for 4th of July. I'll just spell out USA with these little peel and stick felt letters on the blue sail that was already on there. So super patriotic. And it kind of works because like a sailboat would have like writing on it like that. If it was representing a country, like maybe at a boat race or something. So I'm just going to sit those on the existing blue that was on there. Now, I kind of wanted to make a flag for the top. This is what I was talking about. Like, you could use that to make the sail. See? That's also got stars on it. And these are available, it seems like, every year at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use one of the red ones with the white stars just to make a fun little flag for the top. Just a little contrasting color. And it's going to cover the little hole in the sign. Now, I was worried it wasn't going to be quite stiff enough, so I used one of the white ones too. And I'm just going to Mod Podge them together because it is like a thin paper, just to make it a little bit thicker. So we'll keep it shape, and I just hot glue that over the hole with a cute little star flag up top. Now here's the base that we're going to use to stand this up. I don't really have to do anything to it, just attach it to the back. That's going to make it stand up. I'm just going to use hot glue to do that. Super easy. And I like working with those signs from the Dollar Tree because they're nice and thick and heavy. So it's going to kind of weigh it down as well. So we have a little driftwood USA sailboat. I told you, that driftwood is kind of light. So I decided to go back and distress mine with some antique wax by Waverly. It's going to give it a stain. I think it brings out a lot of the character in the wood and makes it look a little bit more like driftwood because driftwood's not going to be super bleached out all the time. It's going to be like a variation of colors. So I just go over it with antique wax by Waverly and a brush and a baby wipe and kind of just distress that until I'm happy with it. I also thought it kind of needed a pole here at the top of the sailboat, kind of breaking up some of that blue. So I use a Dollar Tree dowel and I just cut that down to size, and we're just going to attach that on there. It's just going to kind of make it look more like a traditional sailboat. And just a fun, whimsical way to DIY one of those sailboats from the Dollar Tree. Again, you could totally do that with the ones they have this year as well. Just be super creative and think patriotic.
Now, I have been in trouble finding that driftwood at Target lately. I don't know if it was just discontinued or what, so you might have to find another source, or if you don't have any, or maybe even find some from the beach, but it was a fun little idea for a patriotic sailboat. Now for the next DIY, I picked up this tray at Target Dollar Spot, but Dollar Tree Plus has a very similar sign, and you wouldn't even have to worry about the writing on there.
Whenever you can start with an existing tray, it's gonna half your work's done, right? So I want to keep like the wood border on there, but I want to make the tray look like a flag. I want to kind of do like a coastal take on a flag, and by painting the back of it. Now, I didn't have any chalk paint, so I'm going to actually make some with some calcium carbonate, water, and acrylic paint. I get this calcium carbonate on Amazon. I believe this brand might not be available. It wasn't available the last time I checked, but I'm sure you can find another kind. I think I might have a couple kinds linked in my Amazon shop below. But I will try to find the recipe to this as well. It's super easy. Acrylic paint, water, and calcium carbonate. And this is just some white acrylic I got on clearance at Target, and mix it all together. We're going to have some DIY chalk paint. Now, I kind of wanted chalk paint because I want to cover up that barbecue like a boss that's written on there, and I kind of just want a blank canvas. So now that we have it all taped off, we have our chalk paint mixed. We're just going to paint that all over until we get pretty good coverage on the tray. I just want to make sure that you can't read any of that writing, and these are going to provide the white stripes for our flag. Now I'm going to use some of this red burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. They have these in the fall. I always try to stock up any burlap they have. If you can't find this, you could always use red ribbon as well. Or I guess you could paint some burlap ribbon red, because you're probably going to want your red stripes for your flag. I just thought the burlap would give it more of a coastal feel. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove my painter's tape. And then I thought that my stripes were going to be a little too big for this size tray. And so I'm kind of cutting the fibers on that rivet, and I'm going to try just cutting it in half, just going with the grain so I can make like some smaller stripes so I can get more stripes on my tray. I'm really pleased with all the burlap products that Dollar Tree now has, with like the rolled burlap, the larger rolls of it, like so many varieties. I love crafting with burlap. I always think it looks coastal. And so that worked well. So we're going to cut down some more strips the same size by cutting them in half and then cutting them all the same length until we have enough stripes to go all the way down our tray. Now we're just going to attach those with Mod Podge. So I'm going to kind of go all over, even though I only need them for the striped areas. It's just going to make it easier. It will also seal the paint from behind. And we're going to start with a red stripe, and then we're going to skip a white section for a white stripe, and then just keep gluing these down until we get red stripes all over. I actually kind of wanted to work on centering mine, so I kind of did like the middle of the tray where the handles were after doing the top one. And then I fill in the ribbon in between. That way my spacing was a little bit better. And then we're going to do the same thing down here on the bottom. I'm not going to do like a blue section with stars for the flag. I'm going to do something different for blue, something coastal or nautical, to give you that blue against your red and white stripes. And that looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Trying to wipe off some of my excess Mod Podge there and make sure those are all good and sealed down. Now I told you I was going to do something different, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to use one of the little blue anchors from the Dollar Tree. It's that blue, like kind of royal blue flag color, and just kind of sit it in the bottom like that to provide the blue touch against the flag. I think it's a nice contrast. I think it looks really fun sitting next to our little coastal sailboat. And you get that flag feel, but it's kind of a more abstract, like a blue anchor against a red and white burlap tray background. And I always love decorating with those trays. Just a fun thing to display on the side like that. Takes up a lot of space in your cabinet as well. Okay, next DIY, I picked up this little tinsel flag at the Dollar Tree, and I thought we could give this a coastal makeover. So it has like a little ribbon hanger here at the top. We are just going to remove that. We're going to basically remove everything on this flag and start from scratch. It's one of those like cheap like tinsel ones. I can't stand this stuff. So I just cut it right down the middle and pull it off. Now there are little tabs on the side that they used, you know, for that garland. And I'm just going to leave all that on there. I'll just make my flag a little bit larger than the plastic cage. So you won't be able to see any of that. But basically, I'm just trying to clean up everything that was on there. I just want the cage and the hanger to make a new flag. And if you make a mess with that little tinsel stuff, I always use like a Dollar Tree lint roller. It really helps pick that up, especially off my silicone mat. Now, the first layer of our flag, I want to use some of this Dollar Tree burlap. And I want it to be a little bit bigger than the cage. So I was trying to figure that out. And I think that's going to work. I just kind of need the middle section here. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. And I love the fact that Dollar Tree has burlap now, but storing it in the rolls like that, it's all wrinkled and rolls up on you. So I do find I have to iron it a lot to be able to work with it. And I do go ahead and give this an iron. I also use a little starch on it. I think it helps to stiffen it up a little bit, which makes it a little bit easier to work with as well, because when it rolls up like that, there's not a lot you can do with it. So I'm just going to use my Cricut Easy Press and give it a quick iron, spray some starch on there. And I know a lot of you guys have said that if you Mod Podge it first and let it dry, it doesn't fray. So that's a good tip as well. But I usually don't have enough time for that, unfortunately. But now that it's flat, I can kind of see what I'm working with, and I can kind of see that I didn't cut it super even. So I'm just going to try to, you know, cut along the row. And that is a quick, easy way to cut burlap because you can usually see where your rolls are. And just kind of clean that up a little bit. That's going to be the background of our flag. And I know that you can see through it, but it's only going to be one layer of it. So I think it's going to be fine. Now, while I still have access to the hanger, I'm going to go ahead and take some twine and just tie that around the hanger. And that way I won't have to worry about that later. Now the burlap itself, again, was going to be the first layer. So I just need to attach that. And then I want to do like a kind of a coastal version of a flag over it using some coastal items. So I'm going to use one of those Dollar Tree bandanas as well. I'm going to go ahead and do the top half of the flag first and just hot glue that to the cage everywhere I had an opportunity. And then go ahead and do the same thing here on the bottom. And you can see that I cut it a little bit larger, so it's kind of stick out from all the edges there, and I don't have to worry about any of that. Now, I wanted to do something fun with the red stripes. So I am taking this bandana, and I started by cutting it, but then I was like, you know, I don't really want to cut it. I really want to rip it. And so that is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut like a little bit, just enough to get a hold of it, and then just rip the entire red stripe out. It's going to kind of give me like a rag effect. It's going to be, you know, a little weathered looking. I think that's going to look nice and coastal. And you do have a little string issues and stuff like that, but you can always clean it up a little bit. And so I did the same thing with that one. I just cut it enough to get a hold of it and then just rip, and it rips along that one seam. And these are plenty long enough for the stripes here on the bottom. Actually, they're a little bit longer than I need, so I'm just going to trim those down to size. Now for the top part of the flag, of course, we're going to still have the red stripes. They're going to be a little bit shorter, so I'm cutting that part of the bandana out. And then I'm just going to rip those out as well. And I'm going to leave the burlap for the white stripes for right now, but I have another idea for the white stripes on this flag. And this was a really fun DIY to make. I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to turn out when I started it, but I really liked the final project. Now I want to glue all these stripes down. I did not want to use hot glue though, because it would soak through the fabric. So what I'm going to use to glue all these down is just some Mod Podge. It wasn't the easiest. I might, if I were to do it again, I might use tacky glue, but basically I just put down a layer of Mod Podge and then kind of pressed it on until it kind of soaked through to glue it to the front. And I just do that all the way up with all of the red stripes. And then I lost a little bit of footage there, but basically I actually ripped a rectangle of the star pattern from the bandana as well for this part of the flag. And then I'm going to Mod Podge that on just like I did all of the stripes. So it kind of has like a ripped edge too. Two of the edges have ripped a little bit better than the other two, but we made it work. And I wasn't sure it was going to stay on because this was a much bigger piece of fabric. So I did Mod Podge over the top of the star part too, and kind of cleaning up some of the stripes with a lint roller because, you know, the strings and stuff were kind of all over the place. But for the coastal touches, we have the burlap, we have the ripped fabric, but I thought some seashells would be great. So I want to use white seashells from the Dollar Tree to do the white stripes of the flag. And, you know, they're come in these little bottles like this, and I just want to use the white ones. I noticed there was kind of smaller ones and kind of larger ones, and I can't say that my stripes were super even on my flag. Kind of adds to the character, I guess. So I'll just use some of the smaller white shells for the smaller lines and some of the larger ones for the large ones, and I'll make it look like maybe I did it on purpose, right? And it's just a matter of Mod Podging those down. I found that if you Mod Podge, like, you know, just the top side, is plenty. You just need to make some kind of contact between the shell and the burlap. And I think it's totally going to hold up. You might want to lay them out first because it kind of makes it a little bit faster like that. You can just keep it going. So we're going to do that all the way down. My first thought was I was going to use starfish for the stars, but I did kind of want this to look a little bit more like a traditional flag with that blue and white star pattern. So I kind of like it like that. I think the shells are definitely a little fun, unexpected touch. And I haven't made a flag like this yet for 4th of July. And so I'm just going to do that with the final 2 rows here, just gluing down each seashell. And this was a really fun DIY to make. I really like it. And you could pretty much hang this anywhere. You can even hang it on your front door if you like. So that is how it turned out, our little seashell American flag. And I think it does look a little bit better. This is after it's dried for a day. I always notice the Mod Podge on the fabric does dry eventually. It's still kind of, you can still see it when you use the heat gun, if you know what I mean. But if you let it dry, it kind of disappears better.
And it does look really coastal for 4th of July.
The next DIY is using one of the Shore Living stencils. It says from sea to shining sea, and just a thrift sign. Actually, I think this is an old sign that I had that I don't really use. It's a nice chunky wood sign, and I think it's going to be the perfect size for a little patriotic sign. I'm going to paint it this kind of a darker royal blue color, kind of all over. I thought that'd be a good background. And then we could paint the stencil on the front with white. Now, have you guys seen the Shore Living stencils in your store this year? I've gotten them the past 2 years at my Dollar Trees, and I still have some left over from last year, but I have not seen them this year. And I don't know if I missed them or if they just didn't bring them back. But I love them. I hope they brought them back. So I do a good coat all over, trying to cover up all of the writing and everything that was on there. And I thought, this is perfect. From sea to shining sea, you know, that's perfect for patriotic. That's the same saying that we had on those coastal books too. So I just lay it on there, and I'm using one of those little stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree and going all over with some white chalk paint to give me a nice contrast. Trying not to get any on my sign. It's always a good idea to tape those off. I probably should have used a little spray adhesive on the back of this stencil because it does just kind of sit on there. But it does a pretty good job on this. And I'm just going to have it all be white. I'm not going to do like any other colors on that. So I give it a quick dry and peel off my stencil. Isn't that cute? And it's perfect for 4th of July. The colors are perfect. And the saying is perfect too. Now, I wanted to kind of add something a little bit fun to this one, and so I thought a little boat would be cute, and I picked up one of these little tugboats that's red, white, and blue from the fairy garden section at Dollar Tree, and some of these little flag cake toppers, and I thought we could attach a flag to our boat. I know a lot of people do that here around the 4th of July, and I was just trying to figure out where to attach it, and I'm just going to glue the little cake topper toothpick here to the back of my boat, and then we're just going to display this on top of that sign. I think they're going to work really well together. And this is how it turned out, our little from sea to shining sea sign.
And I haven't seen the stencils this year. I will look to see if I still have one of these. If I do, I will try to upload the file for you if you wanted to make your own stencil. It was so cute, and it went with everything in this cabinet, so I wanted to be sure to include this DIY for you as well. From sea to shining sea. Now, I didn't see these this year, but I was able to find them in my Regulars Crafter Square. These are the ship wheels, so if you can find them there left over, or if you have one from last year, you can make this easily, or you can always make your wheel from rope.
We're going to stain it. So I use Antique Wax by Waverly and a foam brush, and we're going to go all over the raw wood of the ship wheel and give it a nice stain. I love that. It brings out the wood grain of it, makes it look more high-end. And I'm actually going to use this as decor in the same cabinet as the DIYs that we've been making. And so this is going to kind of be a standing decor as well. I just need to give it a good base stain here first. Once I get all the antique wax by Waverly on there, I'm just going to wipe off the excess with a baby wipe. And then we're going to use some of this 8-foot nautical rope jute from the Dollar Tree to decorate this a little bit more. Just going to remove the plastic from the ends. Then I thought it would be fun to do like the ship wheel part with the rope. And so I'm just attaching that with hot glue all along the wheel that we just stained. The reason I stain the whole thing is just it's easier, and any kind of like areas under the rope you might be able to see, you're going to want that to look stained too. So I go all the way around with hot glue, framing that out, and then once I get to the end, I just keep going, and we're going to try to fill in the ship wheel with the rope for this part. I've done different methods with this. I've done like twine on the handles. There's so many ideas that you can do to make these look a little bit more 3D because, you know, they are like a thin piece of wood. So I just keep going around with that same piece of rope until we fill in the wheel part. And it definitely gave it a coastal vibe. And I think the color of this rope works well too. I don't think I'm going to be able to fit the whole thing, so we're going to cut it off and glue it right here. Then I want it to be standing, so I'm going to use one of these little wood frames from the Crafter Square at the Dollar Tree and one of these little wood rings from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree too. I'm going to use the stand, I just popped it off, and the ring part, I like to use that in the middle part of my ship wheel. Perfect size. And they have those, I think, in 2 different sizes. That one fits perfectly. And then I'm going to glue the base here at the bottom, right where the hanger on that was as well. Then I kind of decided that I wanted to give it some patriotic colors. So using a red paint pen, I'm going to go ahead and color in the little wood ring that we put in the middle. I don't know if it's easier to paint this before or after you attach it to the sign, but I'm doing it after, trying not to get too much red paint on the ship wheel as I go. But we're going to make it work. I just wanted to add some red, white, and blue details to this to make it look a little patriotic to go with the patriotic decor. I'm also going to use the red paint pen, and we're going to paint the little base stand red as well. And you could always use acrylic paint or whatever for that as well, which I ended up doing because it just wasn't covering as good as I'd like. I'm going to clean up some of the fuzzies on the rope with just a lighter to make that look a little bit cleaner. And then I thought it needed some blue. So I'm going to use some of the Shore Living jute cord. It is like this navy blue and brown jute, like kind of braided together. I never really DIY with this a lot, but it actually worked well for 4th of July. And they have this again this year at the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree. And so I just cut off a piece large enough to go around the little red ring that we attached to the center. Then I'm also going to line the base with the blue and white twine as well. So I'm going to cut off another piece that is the perfect length for that. And I think that's going to be enough of a red, white, and blue touch to that to kind of give it a patriotic feel. All I need to do is attach it with a little hot glue. This is the first time that I made one of these ship wheels standing. I think it actually worked really well like that. So don't be afraid to switch up a hanging sign like this and make it standing. It's pretty easy to do. And then just finishing up with the blue and white around the red ring in the middle. Super cute. I love how this turned out. And let me show you how it looks. again, sorry for a little bit of a grainy picture, but I displayed this with our 4th of July decor. Not super patriotic, but maybe a little bit on a smaller scale with the red, white, and navy, but lots of rope and wood details. I think it's really fun. Okay, coming up next, we're going to use some of those shore living signs. Some of my Dollar Trees actually still have these. I don't think they had them this year, but I love using the cutout signs like this, and this is just kind of an idea of what you can do with them. If you don't have red, white, and blue, you can always paint them. And then I'm going to use some of these little misspelled signs from the Dollar Tree. I think my Dollar Tree had to stop carrying them. But basically, they're just woodblock signs. You could always use something like this. I think that might work as well. I like them because you can just pop the sign off of them and you have a little heavy-duty burlap sign. And I thought it would be cute to try to cut just the fun part, you know, of those long, skinny signs off. And then you could have a cutout for a sign. You know, that's kind of a hard thing to craft, is a cutout like that for a DIY sign. And so this is just a fun way to kind of do it. So I just take, you know, I popped the sign off my burlap, and then I am just going to try to use my square ruler and try to cut this down to size using the sign for reference so I know how big to make it. And at first, I was going to try to reduce cutting. So let me show you how that looks like if you want to reduce cutting. I'm just going to cut it where it will overlap the 3 sides of it. That way, I only have to cut off the top and the bottom. And because I really only need the burlap to be behind the little cutout. I tried that at first to make cutting a little bit easier so you can kind of see what that option would look like. But then I didn't really want it to be rectangle. I kind of wanted it to be more square. So I decided to cut it a little bit more. A lot of you guys have asked what I use to cut my items. And I did buy myself a Ryobi miter saw at Lowe's, and I love that thing. But you know, you can always use a little miter saw in a box. They're super inexpensive. So I'm actually going to cut it down to the size of my sign just to make me happier. And I like that better. Now I'm going to use that for reference to try to cut down my anchor. Now I kind of made a mistake right there because the anchor is bigger than the sailboat. So see how close like the bottom came to that? Yeah, that's going to be a little close to cut there. Now, when you peel that sign off these, they do have little tiny nails sticking up, so be careful. As you can see, that anchor goes all the way to the bottom, but that's okay. I think we're going to make it work. I just kind of cut off a little piece of blue from the sign that's left over to try to fill in the gap. I guess I shouldn't have used the first sign for reference. I probably should have used the sign, because I didn't realize the anchor was going to be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. And then this one is the white shell. Whenever I see these red, white, and blue signs together, I always think 4th of July. And, you know, I don't really like them as the long, skinny sign, unless you're going to add to them, of course, and make them thicker and stuff like that. But this is a fun idea to use those little cutouts to make something smaller. So we have our red, white, and our blue. You know your girl's going to distress it a little bit. Can't resist. So I use a little white acrylic and a chunky brush, and we're going to distress the red and the blue to kind of give them a little bit more of a coastal farmhouse vibe. But see, you can definitely do like the red, white, and blue with a more traditional color and still get your coastal beach vibe on. I'm going to distress the blue as well. And I did wipe off a lot of the distress. I just wanted a slight distress to break up, you know, the blue on the red and blue on the sign from being also one color. And then the white I can't really distress with white, so I'm going to distress it with a little antique wax by Waverly. Kind of dry brushing a little bit of that on, just for a little bit more character. I just don't like how solid color those are, but I liked the red, white, and blue. Just wanted to add a little bit of character. And then we can attach these to our little signs. The burlap makes a perfect background. If you want to make your own little burlap sign, you could totally use the burlap rolls from the Dollar Tree. It provides a great backdrop for the cutout for sure. And my little repair job for my anchor. And I'm just going to hot glue those on to our signs. Super easy. I did get these all together and I didn't really like their shade of blue compared to the blue that we were using on the other DIYs. And I am going to kind of display them all together. So I do go in and distress it a little bit more with like a navy color to kind of tie it in with more of the darker blue that we've been using on these DIYs. Then for the shell, I thought we would add like a number 4. So using one of these little galvanized numbers from the Dollar Tree, I thought we could add a little coastal 4 right in the middle of the shell. Just a fun little whimsical touch. And I also wanted to add a little color, so I am just going to paint mine red. And I just hot glue that right on there. I like to use numbers and seasonal decor whenever I can. I always think it's fun.
And this is how they turned out. Just a fun thing to do with the cutout signs. I don't have any of the laser cutters or any of those fancy things to make your own cutouts out of woods. So whenever I can find things like this in shapes that I like from the Dollar Tree, this is just a fun way to use them. And I put all of those fun coastal DIYs together in this cabinet. It's looking so cute. Now, the next DIY is for one of the metal lighthouses. I've had lots of requests from y'all to what you should do with these things. They're kind of hard to decorate, right? And they didn't sell well. So a lot of my Dollar Trees still have these, like in the crafter square department. And I'm going to show you how to make it patriotic.
So I just covered the hole in the top with some masking tape. That's kind of the best way to cover a hole in the galvanized metal. And then I am going over the whole thing with white chalk paint. I think the chalk paint's going to help grip it to that galvanized metal and give me a fun background to paint with. I want to make this like a standing lighthouse decor for my coastal patriotic feel. And so we're going to paint it like a patriotic little lighthouse. So I first start out with like a blue paint pen, and I'm just going to start outlining the different parts here of the lighthouse. I kind of want the top of it to be blue. I tried like painting it in with the blue lighthouse, kind of going over the window, but as you can see, it kind of gave you a choppy feel with the paint pen. So we will touch that up, but I got a good start. And for some reason, my masking tape did not hold up, so I do kind of have a hole there on the top, but that's okay. So I thought some navy blue acrylic would touch that up and make it look a lot nicer, but kind of gave me a base of where I can paint. And so we're going to paint the top part of that navy just using a small brush, and that seemed to work better than the paint pen. So I'm going to use red acrylic, and we're just going to start like just painting stripes. I'm not using any painter's tape or anything like that. I'm just using a small brush and kind of dragging it across the lighthouse, kind of at a diagonal pattern into some red and white patriotic stripes. And they don't have to be perfect. That's going to kind of add to the decor. Then I'm going to use, I do have a red paint pen as well. So I'm going to use that to kind of outline the edges. I thought that would be at least work well for that part of it, right? So we're going to go around all of the edges of this lighthouse. It's looking really cute. And then I have a white paint pen, so I'm going to go back and put some white stars all over the blue top of the lighthouse, kind of doing an alternate pattern, just drawing stars on there and trying to fill that in. They do have windows, so I'm kind of like trying to work around the window the best that I can. And then I go back and just kind of paint all of the windows navy. It's going to be a nice contrasting color against the red and white stripes down here. And otherwise, you're not really going to be able to see them. If you don't paint them, I'm just using a small brush. And they're kind of raised, so you know exactly where to paint them. And then I go back with that white paint pen after it's dry, and I just outline them a little bit just to clean that up too. And I think it's looking pretty patriotic. What do you guys think? And again, these are like the traditional flag colors if that is more your vibe, but still with a coastal feel. And then I'm going to use one of these giant Jenga blocks from Five Below, but you can use any kind of wood block you've got if you want to make yours standing as well. And I just glue that to the back. And now we have a little standing lighthouse. And I don't know why I didn't take individual pictures of these. It's a little grainy there, but you can kind of see what it looks like next to some of my other decor.
But I thought it was a fun idea. I know a lot of you guys have been looking for uses for those metal shore living item products because they're a little bit hard to craft with. And I know I do have shore living products thrown in today. I know that they didn't come out with them this year, but I know that, like myself, a lot of you guys still have the shore living items in your stash. But if you can't find specific shore living items, hopefully it still gives you lots of crafting inspiration. But this is how the entire cabinet came together. I think it looks so festive and cute for the 4th of July. So I wanted to show you it together as a set. I really hope you're enjoying today's DIYs. If you are, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it. We're going to start with 3 of the seahorse from Dollar Tree and 2 pieces of their craft wood. I have, I think, a full piece and a piece I've used before, the 10-inch chunky slats. And I love these seahorses. With previous DIYs, I've just left them plain because they're so cute. But for this one, I thought we would give it some red, white, and blue fun and make a cool little 4th of July decoration. So I'm going to leave one white, so I don't need to tape that, but I am taping the bases. They are like that resin ceramic, but they look like wood and they look cool, so I'm going to leave them like that. And we're going to paint the other 2. So for the first one, I'm going to paint it red. The color I have is, I think it's just bright red acrylic by Delta. You can do kind of whatever color red you want. I don't like too much the red and royal blue. I usually try to go with either a beachy blue for the blue or a navy blue. So today I'm going to do a navy blue. So I'm doing red, white, and like navy blue. I just think it looks really nice together. Now, as you can see, there are lots of little nooks and crannies on this seahorse, so it does take a brush and a little bit of work to get all of that covered. And we are going to distress it to make it look cool like the original one too, but this is going to be the base color, like white is the base color on the other one. So this is the navy blue color. Goes on a little bright, but it dries a little bit darker. And same thing, we're just going to go over the whole thing. You want to paint your front and back. And we're going to put this all together and make a really cool USA patriotic display. Now, on my patriotic videos here on YouTube, I do both coastal and non-coastal because not all of you guys decorate coastal, and so I will be doing some of the non-coastal as well, but for today we're doing all coastal. Now for the craft wood, I have 2 pieces. What I want it to be is stacked, so it'll be taller, so I'm going to stack them on top of each other. So I'm going to want it long enough for 3 of these, right? So I'm going to go ahead and use my longest piece and just use a pencil and sketch out 3. I'm also going to want an extra piece to make one of them higher. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch out a 4th one. Now on this board, I'm also going to cut it here because I told you I want to stack it double to make it taller. So I'm going to cut here and I'm going to cut here with my saw, and I have 3 pieces of wood now. So just going to give them a quick sand. What I want to do is try to distress this wood to kind of make it look like the base of the seahorses, which looks like wood, but it's not wood. So it's going to be a little challenging to get it to like kind of go together. I want it to look like old driftwood. So I'm going to put it together first though. So I just use hot glue to attach my two pieces of wood together. I use Gorilla Glue hot glue. It works pretty good for wood. And just make sure I squeeze that in there. And since I sketched this out, I know exactly where to put the top block. And I glue that in place too. I want the seahorse in the middle to be the highest. Now, I did like a 3-step process to kind of stain and age this. First, I took some antique wax by Waverly and some water. And we're going to do a really light stain, see what this does to the wood, just letting that soak in. And as you can see, even though the wood's the same, it kind of stains a little bit differently, but that's okay. So I do that on the front, the sides. We're going to do that all the areas that are visible up here on the riser, just in case you can see any of that when I attach the seahorses to it, and the back just to make it look nicer. And that looks pretty good, but as you can see, it doesn't really look like the wood on the seahorse. So I'm going to do a little wash of gray acrylic paint just by using a paper towel and like a baby wipe and just kind of wiping that over the stain to see if I can get it about the same color scheme. And that's starting to look a little bit better. So I'm going to do that all over just to give it a little bit of a gray stain. Sometimes I, instead of antique wax by Waverly, will use gray to stain wood to look like driftwood. It's going to give it that old weathered wood feel, which is what I'm going for. And then the final step is I'm going to distress it with just plain antique wax by Waverly. I put that on there and just wipe off the excess. And it gave it a little bit more of a warmer wood, but with gray undertones and all the other little steps we did, and it gave it really a cool look. So I'm going to do that on the top and the back. The ends don't really need too much work. They're kind of like raw wood there on the end, and they kind of just soak everything up. Now for the letters, I'm just going to freehand it. I'll show you how I do it. I just kind of know my sections right. So I just do a big U, an S, and I'm using my Posca paint pens. I have a whole set of these now, like almost every color, I think. I love them. They work so good. You can get them on Amazon. I have them available in my Amazon shop. They are the best paint pens I've ever used for real. And then I went in and just made my letters a little bit fatter and just put little lines on the end to kind of make them look a little bit cooler. I want them to look like big block letters for USA, one for each one of the seahorses. Once I painted them on there, I just went in and sanded them with my sanding block, just to kind of give them that coastal farmhouse distressed look. And then between the letters, I wanted starfish. The only starfish I had were these. These came from one of my viewers. I think she got these at Hobby Lobby. Fun little seahorse shapes, but you could always use the little tiny seahorses from the clothespins at the Dollar Tree. I think those are about the same size. To paint them, they don't need very much paint, and I don't want to fill up those great starfish holes, so I'm just using a paper towel and a little dot of paint, and that worked really well to give them a light coat of red and blue without filling up the little holes. And then I just went over and gave them a quick little sand, kind of give them that little bit of a coastal farmhouse vibe as well. And I'm going to do red, white, and blue, so I want to alternate where my red and blue are, so I'm going to do blue on the left and red on the right, and I just attached them both with a dot of hot glue, filling in the spaces between USA. So let's check out how our painted seahorses are doing. I let them dry, but I still had to dry them a little bit with my heat gun because, you know, paint kind of pools up a little bit inside there. To distress them, I just took a makeup sponge and some white acrylic, and I'm just dragging it. Putting just a little bit of paint on there, dragging it over, and it gives it that great pattern that it had originally. If you get too much in any little area, just use a baby wipe or something, or the original paint color to go in and touch it up. But doesn't that like make it look so much better? It brought out all that great detail on these seahorses. I absolutely love these seahorses. They were short living, but I found them in the regular aisle at some of my stores, like in with the home decor, as well as with the shore living line. They're so pretty. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here with the blue seahorse. I'm not going to have to do anything with the white seahorse. The white seahorse is distressed with like wood look, which is fine. And then both of these are distressed with white, which gives it that red, white, and blue look. Little touch up on my seahorse face there. I distressed a little heavily. And then I just went in and removed my painter's tape that I was using to protect the base. And we have our red, white, and blue seahorses. Now it's just a matter of putting it together. You could just stack it on there, but I want mine to be a finished piece and all stay together. So I attach my seahorses with hot glue. And the red, the blue, on this side I want it to be red, white, and blue. And then for the one that we raised up with the second or the third block, I guess, we're going to put that right in the middle. That is the white one. That's what it's looking like so far. Right here, hot glue the last one in place, and I absolutely love how this turned out. It is so cute, and I can't wait to display this for the 4th of July. Isn't this so pretty? So I know some of you guys were looking for ways to DIY these seahorses, and most of us have been like, oh, we just leave them alone. Well, here is a DIY where you DIY the seahorse as well. They look fantastic painted, and they look really cute on this little rustic base we made, USA, with a little starfish on there as well. What do you guys think about our first DIY? I had so much fun putting this one together. If you're enjoying today's video, don't forget to hit that like button. It always helps my videos do better here on YouTube. Okay, the next DIY, I wanted to do something fun with these corals they have this year. They have them in Patriotic color, so I picked up a Dollar Tree vase. This is kind of one of the shorter ones. And look at this great burlap they have with the 4th of July section. And then I picked up a little American flag patch in the crafter square. I love this burlap, but I thought it just screamed coastal 4th of July because burlap looks so coastal, and then it has the blue stars on there. So we are simply just going to cover the vase with it. I thought that'd be a really quick DIY. And so I'm just cutting it. I'm not even going to iron this one. Just cutting this first section that's about the same size as my vase, and just cutting a piece that's going to be a little bit bigger than my vase. And it does fray, so I'm trying to be careful with it as I cut it. You could always seal your ends with Mod Podge if you wanted. I'm using the red and the blue willow on this one, and then I'm also using the white glitter coral because I couldn't find the willow in white. That way I can do the red, white, and blue, but they all look really similar. So I just do a bead of hot glue here on the back of my vase, and once I got a nice straight line of the burlap, I glued that to it. I'm going to pull it tight. I'm only going to be attaching it to the back. It's going to be like a sleeve. Mine was a little bit long, so I'm going to trim it down a little bit, cutting with a grain so I can get another straight line on that burlap. And then I can go back and always trim the top and bottom. So I just do a bead of hot glue on that and glue it to itself, a quick little sleeve. And, you know, not too permanent. Like if I want to reuse this vase for something else, it's going to be really easy to pull that hot glue off the glass. So I just have a little bit of a extra burlap and frayed edges here on the bottom. I just trim that down so that it can sit well with no overlap of the burlap, and then I trim the top as well, trying to like minimize the fraying and make it look nice there too. I'm not going to trim it out or anything like that. I'm just going to leave it with like burlap edges. I think that looks kind of cool. So that's what we have so far. I thought it would look even cuter to add an American flag to the front. So this is the American flag patch from the crafter square. They kind of have these all the time. I don't think they're necessarily 4th of July. And I'm just going to hot glue that on to the burlap. Having the burlap there really helps that glue and that like round pattern to the vase, because you can glue it directly to the burlap. And we have a fun coastal patriotic vase. It looks coastal with the burlap, of course, and then we're going to be adding corals. So coral's very coastal as well. I picked up 6 of these. I did 2 of the red, 2 of the blue, and 2 of the white. So the vase is a nice size, so I don't think I'm going to have to trim it or anything. And I really don't need any kind of filler. You could use filler in it, but they kind of are going to fill up this vase really nicely. So I started with just kind of alternating, where I put them in there. You can kind of work with them to figure out how you like to display your coral, what looks best for you. I did it like this at first, and then I wasn't that happy with it, so I took them out and I kind of fanned them out like this, where they are like fans of coral, and then I can just layer them in like that. So that's what I ended up doing. I went red, white, blue, and then I kind of want red on the front too. So then I'm going to do white, blue, and red. All fanned out, but you can arrange them however you like. But that's what I ended up doing with mine. Really fun centerpiece for 4th of July, really easy, and it definitely has that coastal vibe with all of the coral, the red, white, and blue coral, and that cute little burlap vase. I just love that fabric. It's so cool. They had red burlap, blue burlap. They have a stripe pattern as well. I'm going to be using this burlap in another DIY today too, because I think it's really cute. Okay, for the next DIY, I'm using a Dollar Tree Patriotic chair color of a flag and one of the sailboat shore living signs from this year. I wanted to have a back though, and I figured that one of the calendars from Dollar Tree, the cardboard on there, might provide me a nice back. And look at that, it's just the right size. It's not going to be super sturdy, but I think it's going to work. So I'm just going to use the stripe pattern from the flag chair cover to cover the cardboard back. You could always paint this if you didn't want to use a flag cover. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cut a piece of this polyester out a little bit bigger than what I need. And it's going to cover it. Now, the chair cover is a little see-through on the white, so you are going to be able to see some of the cardboard behind it. So it's going to give you a kind of a rustic feel. So don't expect it to be bright red and white. And if you wanted that, you would need to paint your cardboard white or use like a white sign behind it or something like that. I thought even about just attaching fabric to the back, but I wanted it to be a little bit sturdier, which is why I am going to use the cardboard. So it did have wrinkles in it from being packaged, so I just went ahead and ironed that out. And then I'm going to cut it down just a little bit here I want it to overlap each edge. And then I'm going to go in and just simply Mod Podge the flag to the cardboard. Just a nice even coat all over so it will stick well. And then that's going to provide the background for the back of our sailboat sign. Now they had these in like octopus, other different things as well. You can kind of do whatever you have, but I thought the sailboat would be fun for the 4th of July. So you have a little bit of wiggle room to play with this. If you get it on there and it's not super straight like I did, you can kind of pick it up and lay it back down and move it around until you get it a little bit straighter, which is what I did. And then I just used a paper towel to kind of make sure it's really good and attached, and went in and gave it a quick dry. Then I can go in and trim off the excess fabric. I don't want it to stick out from the side of the signs. This calendar cardboard was just a little bit smaller, so I think it's going to fit inside the frame nicely. Again, it's not super sturdy. I don't use cardboard a lot in my DIYs, but it's kind of something that I had that I didn't really have to cut anything down to size. I'm going to go ahead and remove the hanger from our sailboat sign. And I want to do Coastal Patriotic on this sign, but I want it to be very kind of rustic. So let's stain things. So I'm going to start with Antique Wax by Waverly. And I'm just using one of those stencil daubers from the Dollar Tree to stain that. And I'm just using it and going all over everything. I'm going to go in and make things different colored, but I want everything to have like a stained wood base. So I don't want it to be really dark though. So I'm going over it with a baby wipe to kind of lighten it up a little bit. Let that beautiful wood grain come through on the sailboat. And then we can start kind of differentiating the different things on here. It's kind of hard to see what's what on here, but this is the sail. I am just distressing that with that navy blue acrylic, letting that wood show through a little bit. I don't want it to be too thick. And I'm going to do that on both of my sails. So I'm going to decorate the back sail because it's kind of solid, right? And the other one has all the slots in it. And then I just kind of went over that with the baby wipe, kind of pushing that navy down into it, making it look like a stained blue sail. And I kind of want to do the water more of a blue color. I started with this cloudless color and just going over all of the waves down here with it. It's a very light blue color. Once I got it on there and used my baby wipe to kind of rub it all in, as you can see, it doesn't really look blue at all. It's too light. So I'm going to add a little Key West to this. To give me a little bit more of that ocean blue. It's not a color I'm using a lot today, but I thought it would be pretty for the water. So I'm going to go ahead and stain all that color. Now the boat is in there somewhere, like the boat itself. It's kind of hard to see, and I actually forget about it for a little bit, but we will go back and stain the boat too. And then for the flag, I want it to kind of stand out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do a coat of white to kind of give it a base so I can paint that to make it look kind of like flag stripes. I thought that would be cute. And this is what it looks like so far with the red and white flag background. I think that looks cool with the background in it. So let's go ahead and attach this. I'm going to use hot glue to glue this all down, all four corners. I don't have a lot of room to do it, but I do have a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and hot glue this down, starting at the top. I did have a little bit of trouble getting the hot glue to stick on this, and I don't know if it's because of what the fabric was made out of or if I didn't have this completely dry, but make sure you have it going to attach. You don't want this part falling off. And the sign itself was pretty flat, so I didn't have to work with any bowing or anything like that in the sign itself. Now for the stars for our 4th of July sale, I'm going to use starfish. I get these little tiny starfish on Amazon. I love them. I use them all the time. I have them linked in my Amazon shop, linked below. And I'm going to try to arrange them in a star pattern like you would see an American flag. Trying to get like flat ones that aren't broken. I don't really care if they're different sizes, but I want to alternate them in that great star pattern. So a little bit to figure out the perfect ones, and I think that looks really good like that. Like the American flag, it's like kind of a staggered pattern for the stars, so I thought that would be cute. And then a little teeny dot of hot glue is all it needs to attach these starfish. That Ryobi hot glue gun, if you guys have one, you know that it shoots out a lot of hot glue guns, so you might want to use a different one. I was struggling to just get a dot here, but just gluing those all down for a fun little another coastal touch to this DIY. I love to use starfish for 4th of July because why not, right? So that's what it's looking like so far. We're going to keep adding to this all kinds of fun details. So we're going to start with a paint pen. I'm going to do some flag stripes here. So I have a red paint pen. I kind of start out with this like more maroon color. I do kind of switch it more to a brighter red because the flag stripes on the back are a little bit more of a brighter red. But I just went over that white distressing with that and did red stripes. We're going to do some white stripes here to try to do a flag pattern. So we have the stars on the sail. We have the stripes on the flag. Just a quick little bit of sanding. I do touch that up a couple times until I am completely happy with it. I know that when you kind of sand the red, it really bleeds a lot into the white, so I was trying to avoid that if I can. I'm going to go ahead and replace the hanger. I'm not going to do beads or anything on mine. You totally can. I'm just going to tie mine off with just a simple hanger. We're going to have so many cute details on this, especially with the starfish added on there, that I don't think it really needs anything extra at the top. And this is a really thin twine, kind of a bigger hole, so I think it works a little bit better just to actually tie it off like that. That's when I realized you couldn't see the boat. So you probably should do this before you attach your background, because now I'm going to have to be careful not to get this on the background. Then I'm like, oh yeah, there's supposed to be a boat down here. So I'm going to go in and stain that with some antique wax by Waverly. This is the first time I've DIY'd, I think, one of these signs from the Shore Living line from Dollar Tree. So you can kind of see it. It kind of goes straight across here, and then I think it goes all the way over here to like that looks like another point of a boat. So I'm trying to find it with my paintbrush, right? At first, I thought about trying to make the water look wavy, kind of like that. Then I decided to kind of make it smoother because all of like the lines of water are all smooth looking. And so I just went ahead and did a smooth line. It's going to be easier to try to make it look like there is a boat floating in that water. I kind of go over it with a paper towel, distressing it. It is going to have like a little bit of a blue undertone on it, just because I stained it blue first, forgetting that there was a boat there. But that's okay. So I just try to fill in that area that I would logically think is going to be the boat, right? You can see it now. And kind of touch up my blue as well because I kind of blend them all together. I don't want any straight lines. I want everything kind of just gently kind of transitioning to each other, including the frame. So we're just going to touch that up a little bit. And then I also want to do like the mast, but I don't really want to mess with like the sail that I've already done. So I'm going to just kind of stain the bottom here of the pole on the sailboat and at the very top by the flag. Now it looks like there is a boat. And I told you I did update my red color because I thought it was a little dark. You know, sometimes you finish a project and you're like, I think it needed some brighter red. And that's it. We have our Patriotic sailboat. I think it looks so cute. As you can see, using that cardboard kind of gave a texture. It looks a little bit better today. So keep that in mind. You might just want to use the fabric in the back and skip the cardboard if you don't want that texture on there. But I kind of like it. It kind of looks coastal to me. But I love the starfish on there. I think it's really pretty. It's a very subtle 4th of July decoration. It's not too crazy. Okay, next DIY, let's do an Uncle Sam hat. Dollar Tree has like a couple different variations of this hat. It doesn't really matter which one you use. I'm going to cover it with some more of that wonderful burlap from the 4th of July this year. And I want to do like one part of the hat stars, one part of the hat red. That's what I'm going to do. I kind of wanted stripes, but they didn't have a red and white stripe one, and so we're just going to go with a red. I start by just replacing the hanger. I'm going to decorate the back of this so I don't have to worry about all of the glitter and all the crazy stuff going on the other side, right? So I feed this in. Now I end up hanging this a different way, so you can skip this step. But this is how I started with because I thought I'm going to need to attach the hanger now because I'm going to attach the burlap onto the sign. And I was trying to decide if I wanted to make this like an Uncle Sam gnome, but I already have an Uncle Sam gnome from my last video, and I really love that one, so I'm just going to make it an Uncle Sam hat. So you might want to iron your burlap first. I probably should have done that first. What I'm doing is just kind of sketching out with a Sharpie on the burlap itself, a little bit wider than the top of the hat. That way I can cut that off and not have any of the Sharpie on my fabric. So then I'm just going to go ahead and cut the top of the hat on the inside of that Sharpie line to cut out the top of the hat. Since it's burlap and it frays, I wanted to cut everything first so I could work with it kind of as little as possible. So as you can see, the wrinkles in this do kind of interfere with your cutting, so you're probably going to want to iron it first. I do end up ironing it, but later. Now for the bottom of the hat, I wanted to use the red to kind of make it look like an Uncle Sam hat. Those colors kind of reminded me of that. I thought about painting white stripes on this to make it look like the flag, and you totally could, so that's an option, but I ended up just using red. So same thing, I just lay my hat on there. I'm going to cut out a piece of burlap a little bit larger, like I do about a ½ inch out, and then just cut inside the line just like that. And it's going to get me pretty close, right? For the top of the hat, I just kind of have to guess. So I just cut out what I know and then just kind of go from side to side. And I have like a long red oval. Then I was like, you know what, girl, you got to iron this burlap. And I have my Cricut Easy Press on my craft center. And honestly, I use this more for crafting and for Dollar Tree fabric and burlap than I use it for anything else now that I have my fancy auto press in the other room. So I'm going to go ahead and iron this to make it flatter. It's going to make it easier to attach and make it look better in the final DIY. But I don't want to make it fray too much, so I'm trying not to work with it too much if I can. And now we can go ahead and start attaching this, putting this together. Now, the other side kind of shows you how the hat's supposed to look. It's supposed to kind of look a little bit more 3D. So I'm going to do a strap between the red and the stars. But for now, I can have a little bit of space there that I can cover up with the strap, right? I'm just going to leave this part whole, the oval down here, and I just Mod Podged that on. I did enough Mod Podge so that it will stick nicely, but I don't really necessarily want that coming through the burlap if I can help it. And then this is the top part. I'm going to start going ahead and glue the whole thing down, and then I'll kind of trim the fabric so I don't have like layered fabric there where it kind of overlaps at the brim of the hat. So a nice coat of Mod Podge, smoothing this out. I can always trim up any fraying. And that's when I realized I don't really want those bumps like behind my burlap. So I went ahead and removed the hanger, and we'll just attach the hanger to the back of the sign. That way it'll look cleaner. And then I just cut off the overlapping fabric here so it's nice and flat. And it's already looking so much better than it did before. I'm not a fan of the glitter and stuff like that there on the back and that pattern, but I can kind of use that as a guide there for the strap that I'm going to make. And once I get it glued on, I can go ahead and trim my burlap, making that look so much better, just trimming the edges. And it shouldn't fray anymore. I did think about going around and framing it out with Dollar Tree rope, and you really could, but I just didn't think it needed it. I thought it was kind of fine on its own. So I do have to replace the hanger though, because we did remove it. So to do that, I'm just going to take the twine and knot it and glue it into the existing holes here in the back. It's a Dollar Tree sign, so it's pretty light. It's not going to take a lot to hold it. And we're going to do the same thing here on the other side. That way it'll be hidden and no bumps underneath my burlap. If you wanted to go all the way through, you could go through all the burlap too. Now, I thought about using some of the faux leather for the strap, but I didn't really like how it looked. So I'm going to use Dollar Tree rope. You could also, I guess, just use plain burlap, but I wanted it to have that curvy pattern that the strap had on the other side. So I thought rope would be better to get that curvy shape, but I'm going to have to use a lot of it to make my strap wide enough for the size of this Uncle Sam hat. So I am cutting it. I'm not wrapping it all the way around. I want it to be flat, hanging against the wall. And so I'm just cutting each piece down to size first, hot gluing it on until we get enough of a strap. And this is a great use for any spare rope you have. I have a million pieces of scrap rope because, you know, save those scraps. You never know when you're going to need them. And then I'm going to do a total, I think, 5 to make it wide enough for what I want to do. So that looks coastal and cute and is a nice strap there for Uncle Sam hat. And then I want to finish it off with, of course, a starfish for another little coastal touch. This is a Dollar Tree Shore Living starfish. I'm going to paint it, so I probably should have done that before I glued it down. But I went ahead and hot glued that in place because at first I was like, oh, red, white, and blue. I can just leave it white. And then my son and I were like, it needs something. We're like, it needs flag stripes. So we're going to do flag stripes with a red paint pen here carefully, since I already have it attached, on my starfish. Now, starfishes usually are patterned like radially, and so that's what we're going to do with ours. I thought at first about just making stripes go straight across it, but that wouldn't really make sense for a starfish. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in the center red. And then I'll be able to do 2 stripes on each one of the starfish rays. So I'm trying to go around enough on this, but not enough to get any paint on my rope. That's why I really should have done this before I attached it to the sign, but you know, I'm going to do 2 stripes on each one. And it's really cute little flag pattern for a starfish. And I think it's going to be the perfect final touch for this project. My son really got a kick out of painting the starfish like this. He said it looked like a flag, but it also kind of looks like a candy cane. He's like, you should do that again for Christmas. I probably will. I love decorating coastal for Christmas. And that looks pretty good. I was trying to decide if I should leave it like that or if I needed a little white in the middle. Then I decided I was a little heavy on the red right there in the middle, right? So I'm going to go in there with a white paint pen and fill in the middle section white, but I want to keep that first stripe on each one of my rays. So I did a circle, and then I'm just kind of like filling in the area in between each one, and then just kind of shading it to kind of make it make sense. And we have a fun flag striped starfish. I think it was the perfect final touch for Uncle Sam hat. What do you guys think about this one? And if you did want to make yours a gnome, you could use like macrame cord, mop head, any of the different kind of mop heads to make a fun beard on there. Just add a nose as well, and that'd be really cute too. But I kind of like the simplicity of just the Uncle Sam hat. Very cute, very subtle, kind of like the sailboat. Now this one is so simple, and these are the starfish from the Shore Living line. Of course I picked up red, white, and blue because the Shore Living line comes out so close to 4th of July, and their stuff is so much cuter than the 4th of July stuff at Dollar Tree. And this is just a no-brainer. Let's make a fun little wall garland with the red, white, and blue starfish. They already have these great, really sturdy rope hangers on them, so let's just go ahead and use them. And they're nice and thick wood starfish too, so you can definitely use a staple gun. So I am just going to staple that, making sure that is secure right there to the back of the red starfish, and we're going to do the same thing with the blue to the white. I thought about knotting the twine, but I ended up not really needing to, and I wanted it to hang flat, so I didn't want any extra knots back there if I could avoid it, and that is so simple. You can use this for an outdoor hanging. You can use this, I think I'm going to use mine for a wall hanging. Very subtle. The red, white, and blue is definitely patriotic. And it's really, really cute. It doesn't scream like crazy 4th of July decorations, but I like it. I thought about adding a little bit of that mesh ribbon that looks like fishnet behind it, but we ended up actually just doing it like this, a very simple little starfish wall hanging for the 4th of July. Okay, this is the project that I was inspired by one of you guys. So I'm going to try my own version. She did hers all together as one. I'm going to do mine as 3 different signs. We're going to use 3 of the Dollar Tree frames, the 5x5. And let me look up her name real quick. It was Billy Sue Dilly on my Facebook Crafty Beach Bums that made this cute sea turtle DIY. I thought about making mine all sea turtles, but I ended up using a starfish too. These are those great ceramic sea creatures that they have the Shore Living line that I love so much. I ordered those things by the case this year. Now, this is some star fabric that I found at Dollar Tree. It's really cute, blue with the white stars. You could always use scrapbook paper or whatever you can find with like a star pattern for the background. This is a nice small star pattern, so I think it's really cute. I'm going to start by ironing it, and I think that's going to be a great background for this project. The frames that I'm using are like these great frames that have glass that slide right in like this. Never used these before, but they're really cool. They come with 2 glasses where you can kind of suspend something in between like a photo. I'm only going to use one of the glass, and I'm just going to use it as a back since it doesn't really have a back to the frame, right? So I'm going to use that for reference, sitting that directly on my fabric. And I think I used this fabric on a sailboat DIY for 4th of July in a previous video. So this is my scrap fabric from that. But I love this pattern. And I am just using my like fine tip Sharpie to sketch that out so I can cut down 3 pieces of fabric to cover the back of each one of my signs. And we're going to have a set of like shelf sitters that are going to be really cute and patriotic, but also definitely coastal. So I'm just going to carefully cut these little pieces out. I love using fabric for background. Dollar Tree does not have a great selection of scrapbook paper. You could always print this pattern out too. It'd be pretty easy to do if you have a printer. And I really love the background. It really made the different creatures pop. And then it's just a matter of attaching the fabric to the glass. I use the glass a lot as backgrounds for my Dollar Tree DIY projects. It's nice flat surface and it works well with Mod Podge. So I do a layer of Mod Podge all over, thick enough to hold the fabric on there. And even though this is a square sign, the glass is not necessarily square, probably for how it slides into the frame. It's probably a little bit longer in one direction. So you will have to make sure that you get your fabric going the right way. I'm just testing it out to make sure it's going to work, and it definitely will. I'm gonna like try to modify the frames a little bit too, so you don't see that slot in the top. I don't really like the look of that. It's definitely functional though, right? So for the second one, I'm just using one piece of glass from that frame too, and we're gonna Mod Podge the fabric onto that one, just like we did before. We're gonna do that with all three of them, and I'm gonna end up with 3 extra pieces of glass. I'm gonna go ahead and toss those just because they're fragile, and I don't want those in my stash breaking. Once I get them all on there, I really don't have to do anything else to it. It's going to give me that nice fabric look. I don't want any kind of a coating on top of it. And so I am going to trim it slightly though, just to make sure I don't have any fabric overlapping that's going to interfere with sliding that into the frame or how it looks in the final project. What I want to do is attach those little sea creatures to the different frames, but I'm going to go ahead and put them together first. So making sure I have my glass going the right direction. It's a little confusing. I'm going to slide that in there. And that is so simple. I love these frames. These are really cute. Now, the top does kind of have an opening on there like that. I am going to glue mine in place so they don't slide out, and so that I can kind of display these upside down because I want to cover up that slide. I don't think that's very attractive for the top of my project. But I went ahead and slid all 3 of my backgrounds in there. And then I just did a bead of hot glue along the top of each one of these to glue those in place so I don't have to worry about those falling out. Kind of smoothing it out too because I don't want it to interfere with how they stand up. And we have our 3 background signs. Now she did hers on one longer sign. So that's another option too. You'll have to check out her project. It was really cute. And we have our 3 little signs. And now we're ready for these great little wall decor. I guess is what they're called. I'm going to do 2 of the sea turtles and 1 of the starfish. They're like a white ceramic resin. They're so pretty. The detail on them is so pretty. I really like using them just white. And so that's what we're going to do. They do have holes in them from the hanger though that I cut off. So I am going to fill those with just a little bit of spackle. Since they're white ceramic, adding the white spackle, you really can't see it. And just kind of push it into the hole there and dry that, and you'll have 3 perfectly little ceramic resin pieces to work with. I chose the sea turtles and the starfish because they're nice and flat, because we also want to add some fun patriotic letters to this. We're going to use the felt Dollar Tree letters in red and spell out the word USA. Or I guess the letter is USA, right? We're going to hot glue these on. I'm going to do this sea turtle like facing up like that. I think that looks really cute. And just try to center that on, hot gluing that to the fabric that is attached to the glass on the back of these frames. And we're going to do that with all 3 of these. I like the idea of mixing it up for a different sea creature. I thought about using 3 different ones, like that spiral seashell one too, but it wasn't super flat, so I didn't think that'd be a great base for the letters themselves. So we're going to have 2 sea turtles. And then it's just peel and stick for the felt letters. USA, I think they'll stay on there. They're pretty sticky. And just a fun way to add some lettering. It's going to look patriotic with the USA on there. But you could always spell out, whatever you wanted with this idea. I think it's really cute. Just trying to make sure that I get them centered on there on the shell, like exactly how I did the other side. And then for the final touch, the white frames are cute, but I thought they kind of needed a little something. So I'm going to use some burlap trim just to decorate the sides and the top. They're going to be visible when these are sitting on my shelf. Now these Dollar Tree burlap trims are really cute. They don't come with a lot in a package though, of individual shapes like this. And so I'm going to have to use a couple packages to be able to do all three. But I just picked one of them. This is like the swirly one. Just because I wanted to add a little bit of burlap to this, just for the coastal feel. So I just measured one of the signs, both sides and the top, and I'm going to cut out 3 pieces, all the same length. The other option you could always paint some flag stripes, like do a red stripe around the frame with paint or tape or something like that. I thought about doing that, but I decided to go with burlap. So I don't want it to interfere with how the signs stand, so I'm not doing the bottom. And I'm just going to glue this on here. I noticed that it was having a little bit of problem sticking, so you do have to kind of glue all the way down the trim on there. So I'm trying not to use too much glue though, because I don't want it seeping through too much. So just a little bit of hot glue and centering that on the frame. We're going to do that all the way around. And I think this was the perfect final touch for these little signs. They're so cute and simple and a fun patriotic DIY if you still have some of these wall charms. I loved these so much I ordered a case of them and then went to the store and saw how cute they were, and then I ordered another case of them. So I have lots of these. I made some really fun wind chimes in my wind chime video with these. With this spiral shell one. And doing the same thing here on my last sign. We're almost finished with this project. And I'm glad I added that. It really broke up the plainness of just the white frame, but so cute. Look at how cute these are. Let me give you a close-up view. See that beautiful texture on that starfish? I can't decide which one I like more. I think I love the sea turtles more just because I'm a sea turtle fan. But really patriotic. The red letters really make it pop against the blue and white star background. But so cute for coastal 4th of July. What do you guys think? For this one, I wanted to use one of the little shore living baskets. They do have these like in the regular section too. This is specifically one of that was shore living. So it's got the navy stripes, which I thought looked kind of fun and a little bit coastal. We're going to use that with some of these great like plastic balls that look like the glass fishing floats. A sand dollar, and like a rope ball, all from the Dollar Tree. The rope ball I had was a little big. I did have to end up using a smaller one to get everything to fit. But basically I wanted to do like a red, white, and blue. These came in like a teal color, a clear color, and a royal blue color. And so I wanted to see if I could kind of change the color of this without damaging it. So I just cut the net off the very base of the bottom so it can still be intact, right? And I wanted to see if I could frost this with a different color. So I'm using Mod Podge and a little bit of food coloring. And I wanted to see if I could make one red because I didn't have red ones and I wanted to do like a red, white, and blue for like a little ball and a basket arrangement to sit around for the 4th of July. Now, one dot of red food color kind of made it pink. So I added another, and I'm just going to use a foam brush to try to avoid brush strokes if I can, and do a very thin coat of the Mod Podge all over the plastic ball because I want it to look tinted like the blue one, where you can still see through it, but I want it to be tinted red. So this was just kind of an experiment. It did work. I liked it. There are a lot of steps involved though, because you have to do several coats, or maybe I should have added a little bit more food coloring. Maybe that would have avoided the extra coats, but I'm trying to do a thin coat. So I did one side and dried it, did the other side. As you can see, it kind of looks pinkish still. So let's go over it with another coat to see how red we can get it. I've used this technique with the dishwasher Mod Podge for outdoor solar lights and stuff like that, and it worked really well to frost glass. And definitely a lot cheaper than doing like the spray frosting. But this is what it looks like so far, 2 coats. I still wasn't happy with it, and I still have some of that Mod Podge left. So let's go over it with a 3rd coat to see if I can make it a little bit more red. And again, trying to avoid brush strokes as much as I can by using that foam brush. I think that's as red as I'm going to get it. I like it. I think it looks cool. And I think it works for my purposes. So now it's just a matter of sliding it back into the fishing net. And then I'm just going to use a piece of twine to tie all of that netting back together. So I just kind of tie that off on one side. And I'm just going to go through all the different pieces, pulling it tight to bring it all back together here at the bottom. And then I can tie that off and it won't be super noticeable that I took it apart or anything like that. And I just wanted to stack like these in a bowl. You can also do like a wall hanging with these. I've done it with like the pretty aqua blue ones. They look so cute, especially if you alternate up a few colors and hang them all together with like a piece of rope. But this one's gonna be a project in a basket. So I use a little Spanish moss for the filler. I think that looks coastal. 2. This is the rope ball that I have. It's a little too big. And I find that out when I go to try to stack everything in this little basket, that it's a little too crowded and I don't think everything's going to stay in there, and my sand dollar, I don't really have room for it as well. So I do go in and use a smaller rope ball just because I had one. I got some of the rope ball vase fillers from Target, and I think it'll work for this. I did think about just eliminating the rope ball. This was me going back and forth going, this is way too big. This is one of the smaller ones. This is a vase filler from Target, and it fits in there way better. So just trying to alternate kind of which way my glass fishing floats go in there, but I kind of wanted to do the red, white, and blue with the sand dollar. But I didn't want to leave the sand dollar plain. I wanted to give it a little patriotic fun too. So using some Dollar Tree napkins, I'm going to show you how I decoupage this. I love decoupaging these little sand dollars from the Dollar Tree. It's a fun way to add a little personality. If you had some flag napkins, that'd be really cute too. These are like the red and blue stars with a white background, so I'll still get that red, white, and blue, but a little bit more of a patriotic vibe. And it takes a very thin coat of Mod Podge to do this. And when I took the napkin apart, I separated the layers just to give me one layer of the napkin. You want it as thin as possible. And I just do that very thin coat of Mod Podge all over the sand dollar and very carefully, trying not to rip my napkin, smooth this out right on top. It dries really quickly, and then I can remove the excess napkin. The best way I found to do that is just to use a sanding block and sand that paper off to give you a perfect cut around that kind of abnormal shape that these little sand dollars from the Dollar Tree are. And then I'll also cut out the slots for the different parts of the sand dollar too, so you can tell what it is. Trying to find some small scissors to kind of cut these out. What works really well for these like little inside parts like this to get rid of the excess paper is a nail file. But I didn't have a nail file handy that was going to fit into these slots. But I'll show you what I ended up doing. I just tried to cut out all the slots, all 5 of them with the scissors. And then kind of push the paper and glue it down on the inside of the slots just using the end of a paintbrush. And that seemed to work pretty well. We are going to seal this too to make it a little bit more permanent. And the stars are only on the front part of the sand dollar here. So I think that's going to work, but you could use a file for that, just carefully. To carefully sand the inside of those slots. And then I went over the top of it with another thin coat of Mod Podge to secure everything and make sure it is nice and sturdy. And there it is, our little patriotic sand dollar. I think it turned out really cute. And it's the perfect final thing for the little arrangement we have here. I love those glass fishing floats, and yes, you can dye them colors. So we have the red, white, and blue. We have the sand dollar. And I love the little blue striped basket. I think it's really cute. Just another little fun, whimsical coastal 4th of July decoration that's very coastal, but it has that little flair of red, white, and blue for the 4th of July. Now up next, I want to do a coastal 4th of July tier tray full of Dollar Tree DIYs and things that are going to look really festive and fun for coastal, but also patriotic.
But I always like to do a cute little floral arrangement, and these little metal buckets from the Dollar Tree are always perfect. This one is just looks like a flag, right? But I kind of want to give it that coastal farmhouse vibe. So I am just lightly distressing all over the little metal bucket with a little ivory acrylic paint and just using a chunky brush, wiping off any excess. I don't want to like cover up like the pattern of the flag on there. I just want it to look a little bit rustic. And I kind of thought one of these wired jute cords would make like a better handle than what was on there before. It was like a blue ribbon. And I thought this would work perfectly because this already has like the wire inside the jute. It's going to kind of make it look a little bit coastal. So this is just a quick, easy DIY for your tier tray. We're going to do a total of 3 patriotic tier trays today to get you inspired for your 4th of July tier tray. 4th of July tier trays, I've been doing them for a couple of years. I am a huge fan of them. I know some people are just starting to do them, and I have tons of tier tray videos on my channel. I've got a whole playlist, so you'll have to check them out. I've got lots of great ideas. Now that green foam that you saw there from the Dollar Tree fits perfectly in these little metal buckets. You just push it in there, but I don't want you to be able to see like that green foam. So we're just going to cover the top of it with some Dollar Tree Spanish moss. That's going to look coastal and fun, and it's going to cover it up. Now, I didn't want to do like coastal tropical, but I wanted it to look coastal. At first, I was going to do like an ivory flower, but it just didn't seem like it was going to be my thing. So I thought succulents would be fun because it's going to be kind of coastal, right? Kind of unexpected. So I'm just going to use 3 of these little succulents from the Dollar Tree. I kind of like just picked 3 different colors to give a little bit of variety. And I think that green one actually came out of a pot. Sometimes they're in pots, sometimes they're stems, but I'm just pushing all 3 of the succulents down inside the flag. And I love how that turned out because I think it definitely looks like something that you would see around here with the succulents. Okay. Next DIY, I love these signs from the Dollar Tree because they're so easy to remake. They have like the wood background with a little sign on top, and I am just going to cover that up. It can be a little challenging to cover the writing on that sign up top. So that's why I'm using chalk paint, and kind of wanted to go with like more of a warm color. And so that's why I picked cashew. It's kind of like the color of sand almost, right? And I am just going to paint that top sign. And I thought we could do a quick, easy little tier tray sign with some window decals from the Dollar Tree. Now, even with chalk paint, I found that you could still see the writing through there with one coat. So it's definitely going to require 2. I'm also going to rough it up a little bit with a little sanding sponge once I get it painted. Because again, we're going for that rustic coastal farmhouse vibe, right? And check out this cute little decal. I think that is going to be perfect. It's kind of going to go with the color scheme that I have. And I think it's going to fit perfectly on this sign if I were to stand it straight up. So I just do a thin layer of Mod Podge on my sign, peel off the window cling, and just lay it right on top. The colors are kind of perfect for what I'm going today. It says Land of the Free because of the brave. And I get it on there, smooth it out, and just give that a quick dry. You guys know I love making things with window clings, but small signs, it is perfect because you don't have to get your Cricut out. You don't have to print anything out. You can kind of find the vibe you're going for and make it work. So as you saw, I just Mod Podged once more on top to make sure that it stays down. Then I wanted, a little bit of a coastal touch. I love to use starfish for 4th of July because, of course, they're stars. So it's automatically going to give us that coastal feel. I get these little ones like this on Amazon, and these are available in my shop below as well. Sometimes they're all tiny when they come in, and sometimes they have like a variety of sizes. I chose like 2 of the medium ones, and I thought we would just kind of hot glue one in each corner on opposite corners, kind of like that, just securing those on there with a little dot of hot glue. And the color goes perfectly with like the sign, so it kind of blends in. So I thought if I just use a tiny brush and some white acrylic, I can make them stand out a little bit. And I also just distressed the whole thing with some of that white as well, or the ivory, just to kind of, give it that coastal farmhouse vibe. Otherwise, I thought that, the little starfish were just going to fade in. You weren't going to be able to see them. And I always like to distress over the window decals because it's going to kind of make it look more like a hand-painted sign in the end and kind of take away some of that glossiness, anything that's left over. And the Mod Podge I use is always like matte too because that helps keep the shine down. Okay, next DIY, I'm going to use a wood house from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. One of those little spring bags that I think looks like seagrass, right? And I thought we would just cover the house, make like a little patriotic seagrass house, if you will. So I kind of had this idea in my mind, didn't know if it would really work, but I love how it turned out. So I just cut half the bag off, and it gave me a great sheet of seagrass. I just lay the house right on top, and then just use an ink pen to sketch out exactly where I need to go in and cut. Now, I think it's going to be fine with like just the raw wood behind the seagrass, like that. And so basically it's just a matter of attaching that. And then I also want to decorate that with the starfish. We're going to use a Dollar Tree Shore Living starfish. Now, I thought I want stripes, and this just happens to have the rose of the purse, and I am just using my red paint pen. Super easy way just to give it some red stripes. I am just painting every other row of the seagrass red. We're going to leave it like red and like tan like that. And I think that's going to look super patriotic, but also a little bit coastal, right? So I'm just going to use hot glue to attach that. I don't think you're really going to be able to see that through it because it's such a thick material. And just smooth that down. And I wanted to tell you guys, keep checking your stores for Shore Living. I just left a small Dollar Tree that was out of everything Shore Living the last time I was there, and I found a ton of starfish, sand dollars, tablecloths, signs, all kinds of stuff. Like, I was shocked, honestly. And I never think I have enough starfish and sand dollars, and I use them year round. So I made sure to stock up on some more of these. Love them. They're plastic, but they look really cool because they have a great texture on there. And I just attached it to the front of the house with a little bit of hot glue. And we have a little patriotic house furniture tray. Isn't that simple yet cute? I love that. Okay, the next item we're going to use for the tier tray is one of these little anchors from the Shore Living line. Mine happen to be white. They do come in different colors. They come in like navy and red and stuff like that. And I really wanted mine to be like blue or navy. This is kind of almost like a royal blue color of acrylic paint. And I'm just going to paint all over. As you can see, even though like it's like Dollar Tree, it's got that like great wood texture that makes it look like it's made out of real wood, even though like it totally isn't. And I just use a brush to make it blue because that way I can kind of get down in between all of the grooves on that texture, right? Now, I usually like my anchors to have some kind of a rope or something, and I'm actually going to use one of these little wood bead garlands. I picked that up at Target Dollar Spot. It is a tiered tray starter kit, but they have something very similar this year at Dollar Tree as well that would work really well, or you could kind of make your own with some of the Dollar Tree wood beads. I thought that would be fun to kind of string that along the top. It's got a little star on the end, that's white. That's going to be a nice contrast, but I think it looks a little bit coastal, right? So I just tie that around like the hanger so it'll kind of like just dangle down in front of the anchor. And I did pick a Target Dollar Spot tier tray kit up last year, so I haven't seen any 4th of July tier tray kits yet at Dollar Tree, so I'm curious what they're going to have this year. I love those tier tray starter kits because they're always a great deal. Now, I do want it to stand up because I don't really have anything to lean it on my tier tray, so I'm just going to make a quick, easy little stand with some of those Dollar Tree like little Jenga blocks. I glue 3 of them together, kind of just to make a little base, just enough to make it stand up, but I also don't want it to be like where it'll tip over. So that is a cute little coastal anchor, if you will. Now to continue on with this tier tray starter kit, this is just like stacked books and it's super easy. Like I think it was kind of meant to be like more rustic, and I kind of want to make it rustic, but I also want to make it coastal. So you could always use one of those from the Dollar Tree if you can't find one of these, or there's so many book stack options nowadays, and you can kind of paint it and stain it like this as well. I'm going to use another one of the Dollar Tree window decals. They're so cute. And I thought these 3 little mini signs were going to be a great time saver because I can just trim these down into 3 little decals, and that will make 3 book covers. They're kind of shaped just perfectly to be book covers. And they say bright stars, bold stripes, brave hearts. The colors are perfect for what I'm going with today. And so it's just a matter of attaching those to my wood book stack. I always love a wood book stack on a tier tray. And this one is going to be just the right size. So I do a thin layer of Mod Podge and just peel off my decals and lay them right on there. And as you can see, there's also like little stars on the sides of the book. So super cute. And then once you get them on there, it's always a good idea to Mod Podge over the top of them as well. But you might need to give them a dry first so it doesn't kind of mess around, move around too much. Now to make them look like a tied book stack, I'm going to use some Dollar Tree twine, and I'm just going to wrap that around a couple of times and tie that off like it's a stack of books all tied together. Super easy. And then, of course, I want a little coastal touch. I'm going to use one of these little plastic starfish. I get these on Amazon as well. They're molded. They're plastic, kind of like the ones from Dollar Tree, but they're a lot smaller. And I wanted mine to be red. So they're white, these, and I just paint mine red with some bright red acrylic paint. I also buy these, you'll see in my Amazon shop, in like a teal color. I think they're so cute and they're so easy to craft with. But they also have like the starfish clothespins and stuff like that this year at Dollar Tree. You can always use something like that too, or some of the little grow animals. I think they might be a starfish in those as well. That might be pretty equivalent from the Dollar Tree. And that is how it turned out. Towards the end of this first tier tray, you'll see how I put everything together. But remember, we've got 3 tier trays today. I want you guys to have lots of patriotic inspiration. Okay, this was the last piece that was in that tier tray starter kit, and it's just a small sign with just a wood stained star on there. And I thought I would use another one of those little plastic molded starfish just on top to give that coastal touch. And no direction really fit like the way that was going, so I just glue it on there. And then I wanted to have a blue touch to it. It seemed a little plain for my tier tray. So I'm just using this pretty royal blue color, and I am just carefully painting the top part of this, that blue color. So we'll have like the blue, the white, and the different like stains of wood. And I think that looks really cute. It was so easy to put together. Now, this is from the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree. These are those little door pillows, and this is the starfish one. I thought this would be perfect for a tier tray because they're always fun to use on tier trays, and I never hang these on doors, so I really have no other use for them besides tier trays. So I just cut the little hanger off and the tags, and it leaves me with the cutest little starfish pillow, which is just the right size for a tier tray, and the colors are perfect for the 4th of July. Now, this is from the Shore Living line as well. This is a garden stake with like an oar, an arrow, a little life buoy on there, but it's just a matter of taking the stake off the back. Don't know if I saw these this year. They seem to have come out with a lot of new yard stakes with the Shore Living line this year, but I thought this would just be a fun item to attach to the top of my tier tray. And the colors are kind of just perfect, right? We've got our red, white, and blue. So it's just a matter of finding a way to kind of tie this on. And I'm just going to do that by putting some Dollar Tree twine on the back, hot gluing that on. I'm trying to think what would be cute. The ones this year that I saw that might be really cute, they have like a navy and white sailboat. I think that would look really good too at the top of a tier tray. Now, these are also from the Dollar Tree. Oh no, Dollar Spot at Target, but they have very similar ones at Dollar Tree. These have like kind of a prettier wood finish on them, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to kind of cover that up anyway. I got this great blue star fabric at the Dollar Tree that looks just like flag stars. So I'm just going to lay my little chunky wood star on top and use an ink pen to sketch that out. And we can have a cute little star for our tier tray. The colors are perfect and I love this fabric. It's so cute. I always have to look at the fabric whenever I see it at Dollar Tree because you can find some real gems like this one. But it's kind of going with my, more traditional color, red, white, and blue. I'm not doing the turquoise on this one. And I'm just going to attach it with a rather thick layer of Mod Podge since it is fabric all over the front of the wood star. And this wood star, being from Target Dollar Spot, you could always use the ones from Dollar Tree, pretty much exactly the same size. So I'm just cleaning up any excess glue that may have eased out. And then you're going to want to trim it up a little bit too if it's not cut perfectly. But the other one I thought I would just leave wood, but I did want it to have a coastal touch. And so I'm going to use one of these little fairy garden crabs from the Dollar Tree and just glue that on one of the stars just for fun. A little red hermit crab kind of hanging out on the star. And I think that's going to look cute. Now, this is a sign that I got like half price at Goodwill, so it was like 50 cents, but you can use whatever you've got. I always get these signs like on clearance at Target Dollar Spot. The real small ones like this, I really love that size. And so I'm just going to cover up whatever was on there. It was like a bear with some ivory acrylic and maybe a couple coats so that you can't see through there anymore. I needed like another 4th of July sign for this tier tray, something small. And we're going to Mod Podge on another window cling. This one is square, and so is this one that says, I love USA, super patriotic. The colors are perfect, and it looks great on that ivory background like that. So I just smooth it on, go over it with another coat of Mod Podge, dry it, and give it a light distress with a little bit of ivory. Maybe not that much. You have to be careful when you're wiping off any excess though, because you can accidentally wipe off some of your Mod Podge. But this is how it looks so far, but I thought we can make it look a little bit coastal too. This is also from the Shore Living line. This is the little red lobster. He's so cute. He's got like little pincers, and I'm gonna glue him right on top, just kind of like overhanging the side of our sign. And then I'm going to use one of these little Dollar Tree American flag cake toppers. They're like on toothpicks. And look, it's just his size. And I thought his pincers would be perfect to hold an American flag. It's totally going to give that coastal vibe. So I just trim my toothpick up a little and a little dot of hot glue to secure that inside his little pincers, and we have a little patriotic lobster now. I love little touches like this on a tier tray because tier trays are so cute. People like to really study them, and when they see a little fun detail like that, it always makes them smile. Now, this is from Dollar Tree. It's actually from like the automotive department. And that's right, it is just an air freshener for your car. But it's a really cute little American flag. And I thought, well, that would be a cute decoration. So I have another sign. I have no idea. I think this was a Target dollar spot sign that I DIY'd before because it looks like it's already painted, has a little glue on it. But that's okay. We can make it something again. I like to try to recycle my signs if I'm not going to use them again, especially this little tiny size like this because they're just perfect. They'll fit pretty much wherever on a tier tray. And so I just painted mine ivory and then going over it with a coat of matte Mod Podge. I decided to go a little bit thicker because this is kind of like a cardboard thickness, this air freshener. And win-win, it'll also act as an air freshener, right? And make my room smell good. So I just glued that straight onto the sign. It was almost a perfect size to fit on here. And then, you know, I have to make it look a little bit coastal, right? So I go in with a little ivory paint and a chunky brush, and we're just going to distress, working in one direction. And look at this cute little sign that we made with an air freshener from the Dollar Tree. Okay, so you saw me use these little cupcake picks before, and I thought this would be a really cute way just to make a really simple little banner for the tier tray. And so these little flags are like made out of paper, but they're still super cute. So I'm just going to cut the toothpicks off of all of them. And I just need a small like mini pennant banner to go across the front of my tier tray. And so I just attached them with hot glue. I didn't think I would really be able to string through them, but I just glue them right on top of the twine like that. And this is just some of that like brown and white twine. Might be Shore Living, I'm not sure. I like to try to pick up a variety, but you could do it with any twine. It's just a really simple little pennant banner. And whenever you're hanging your flags, be sure to hang like the star part to the top and to the left. That's the proper way to hang your flag. And that is how it turned out. It's super easy and super cute. And you guys know I love this ribbon. I think it looks like fishnet. It's a mesh ribbon from the Dollar Tree in tan. And I think that's going to be really cute on here as well to go with the coastal theme. So here's the tier tray you saw me build. We have our coast at the top, that metal stake decoration. I attached the flag banner to the front. And now we're going to style this first tier tray for 4th of July. So I like to use some wood blocks to try to make things taller, which is what I did with this little starfish sign in the back. I just placed one right underneath it. And then blue on one side, let's do like red and white stripes on the other. Our little seagrass house with the starfish, I just love that. And then our little star, chunky star there right in front. We've got like that star stripe combination. And then maybe like the little book stack right over here on this side. And we're already on the bottom tier. Now this is just a plank sign. I'm using this to help this pillow stand up because I really didn't have anywhere for the pillow except for the back. And it's not going to have anything to lean back against. So that's going to help it stay up. And it provided great height there at the bottom of my tier tray. And we have our little succulents and our little American flag 10 bucket, which I love. Our little land of the free sign that we made with a few starfish on there as well. And so like everything, you know, kind of has a little bit of a coastal farmhouse vibe, especially with like the crab on this one and the lobster on the other one. And I just kind of like put the shorter items in front, the larger items in back so you can see everything. And then for a little filler, maybe some more of this mesh ribbon because it really gives you that fun like fishnet feel. I love that stuff. And I like the tan one. It's my favorite. Sometimes I use the white one as well. Maybe I'll put a piece like right over here as well, just to kind of fill up any gaps once I finish decorating this. And here is our little blue anchor I left it with a little bit of the white showing through to kind of make it look distressed. And our little I love USA sign with our little patriotic lobster. I think he's so cute. He's one of my favorite pieces.
And this is how it turned out. A little bit of a nautical take on a 4th of July tier tray. Really fun. A lot of those items are still available at Dollar Tree this year. Like the anchor was available, the tin and stuff like that, the air fresheners. The pillows I did not see this year with the starfish on them, but I kind of wanted to give you some ideas of things you can make with the little window decals. Make great little signs like that for tier trays. Super cute. And of course, I love using any of the beach little fairy garden items. So cute. Succulents kind of go with anything. And you know, I love like a little book stack there for a tier tray, and some fun stars and stripe DIYs with some unexpected things like the seagrass house with the starfish on there. And of course, I use lots of starfish for my coastal 4th of July decor because it's perfect for 4th of July, especially when you like this theme for your house. And I hope you enjoyed this tier tray. It was a lot of fun to put together. And I hope you enjoyed today's video full of coastal 4th of July crafting inspiration. Please let me know in the comments below which DIY was your favorite. I gave you lots to choose from, I know. And don't forget to check out my second channel, Crafty Little Beach, for individual Dollar Tree DIYs.
Fire side.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's 4th of July crafting marathon. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of my YouTube members. Thank you to Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Susan Edmonds, Tracy Knight, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Marin Christensen, Adrian Brult, Debbie Middleton, Donna Tanner, Kim Rogers, Maria Cruz Pagan, Pal Puppy Life, and our newest member, Renee Albanese. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. If you would like to become a Crafty Beach Bum member, all you have to do is hit the join button next to today's video. You're going to get early ad-free access to my content here on YouTube, a badge next to your name, and a thank you in every video. I'd also love to see what you've been crafting. Make sure you're a member of our private Facebook group. I always have it linked in the description of the video. And we would love to see what you've been crafting as well. So be sure to show off your DIYs. We would love to see them. Now, would you like more 4th of July crafting inspiration? Be sure to check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting.